My name is Rachel Harper. I'm 36 years old, a linguistics lecturer at Sterling University in Oregon. After over a decade of teaching and research, I was finally recognized as department chair. My work on intercultural communication patterns was starting to be mentioned at academic conferences. Professionally, I was at my peak, and in my personal life, at least back then, I still believed I was lucky. My husband, Nathan, is the chief accountant at a financial consulting firm in Portland. We had been married for 8 years, no children despite nearly 3 years of trying, 6 failed IUI cycles, 2 rounds of IVF, 1 chemical pregnancy, then gone. The only miscarriage happened nearly a year ago, right after I returned from a 3-day conference in Seattle. I came home late, felt a dull pain in my abdomen, then woke up in the middle of the night with blood soaking through the bed sheets. Nathan was on a business trip. The only person who came to me was my sister, Tessa. She sat beside me in the emergency room, held my hand in silence, and when the doctor said the pregnancy couldn't be saved, Tessa simply sighed and said, "Maybe you're just not meant to be a mom, Rachel." At the time, I thought she was trying to comfort me. But looking back, that sentence felt like a thorn I swallowed and carried in my chest for months. Tessa is 4 years younger than me. We weren't close growing up. She was the rebellious type, always changing jobs, complicated relationships. But lately, Tessa had been coming around more often. She'd bring muffins, ask how things were going between me and Nathan, even blurt out things like, "Do you really think your husband's okay with not having kids?" I brushed it off. Deep down, I wasn't ready to go there. Because thinking too hard would mean seeing things I wasn't ready to face. Nathan had been coming home late more often. He said it was year-end audit projects. Sometimes I'd call around 9 p.m. and he wouldn't answer, then text back 2 hours later saying he was meeting with East Coast clients. I always believed him. That was my biggest flaw. But sometimes I noticed things. During our rare family dinners, when I set my phone down to pour more wine, I'd catch Nathan and Tessa glancing at a phone and smiling, like someone had sent them a private message I wasn't supposed to see. I told myself I was being paranoid, that it was a coincidence, that my husband wasn't that kind of man, and that my sister, despite all her messes, would never do something unforgivable. I buried myself in work, conferences, graduate seminars, research deadlines. During the day I was too busy to remember if I'd eaten lunch, and at night I was too exhausted to stay awake while tracking ovulation. One night in early November, I suggested to Nathan that we try another round of IVF. He just sat silently, eyes fixed on his laptop, and said, "Rachel, we've already tried so many times, maybe not everyone's meant to be a parent." That wasn't the voice of a man who used to hold me through the night when the pregnancy test showed one line. That was the voice of someone who had already let go. And wouldn't say, why. I didn't realize it then, but the truth was already right in front of me. I just chose to look away. Because sometimes, facing the truth means shattering the world you've built. You never really know a storm is coming until your front door blows open in a field of white snow. The snow had started falling heavily early that morning. It was Wednesday, the 3rd week of January. Sterling University announced all classes were canceled due to a sudden snowstorm. I gathered my unfinished documents, shut down my laptop, and left work earlier than usual. On the way home I called Nathan, but he didn't pick up. Probably in a meeting, I thought, though a strange unease tugged at me. The roads were slick. It took nearly 40 minutes to reach our suburban neighborhood. A quiet, ash-gray Victorian house, cozy enough for a family of 3. I parked at the curb and froze. A familiar vehicle was parked just beyond the gate. Tessa's burgundy Jeep. My heart slowed. Tessa didn't usually visit midweek. The last time was Christmas, and she only stayed for under 2 hours. I thought, maybe she stopped by because she knows I've been stressed with treatments. But then I remembered, I hadn't told Tessa about this 3rd round of IVF. I stepped out of the car, the cold wind slapping my face. As I walked slowly up the stone path, I noticed the lights inside were off, even though it was nearly noon. No music, no scent of coffee, not even the usual soft hum of the heater. Just a strange stillness, so cold it made my skin crawl. "Nathan?" I called, voice hoarse. No answer. My shoes were wet, leaving faint water prints on the oak floor. I strained to listen. Silence. But then, a faint sound from upstairs. A short laugh. Female. And so familiar it stole the air from my lungs. Tessa's laugh. I froze for a few seconds before walking up the stairs. Each step felt like a blade pressing into my chest. I wasn't guessing anymore. My body already knew. It was dragging me toward the truth. The bedroom door was slightly ajar. Inside I heard the bed creaking. A sharp gasp. A damp, unnameable sound. I pushed the door open. And the world I knew collapsed in a blink. Nathan, my husband, was in bed, naked. Tessa, my sister, was on top of him. The ivory sheets I'd just changed 2 days ago were wrinkled beneath their bodies. For the first few seconds, neither of them noticed me standing there. They were too wrapped up in each other. When Nathan finally looked up and met my eyes, his face went ghostly pale. Tessa jolted, pulling the sheet over her chest. "When did you get home?" she stammered, her face drained of all color. The cold from the snow outside seeped into every inch of me. "How long?" I asked. No one answered. Nathan turned to Tessa. She met his eyes. That same damp, guilty expression, too familiar, like a scene they'd practiced in secret. "Only a few recent times," Nathan said. "Tell the truth, I'm not here for theater." Nathan sat up, pulling the blanket around his waist. "Fine, it's true, it's been almost 2 years. 2 years. That was when I started fertility treatments. When I was feverish from hormone shots. When I was having eggs retrieved at midnight, then slumped in recovery rooms. And they were sleeping together in the bed where I once cried after losing a baby." I turned away. Tessa called after me. "Rachel, wait, just let me explain." I walked down the stairs without answering. At the door, I put on my coat and grabbed my keys. It was still snowing. I drove off, not knowing where I was going. Only that I couldn't stay in that house for another minute. When I finally pulled into a small motel next to a gas station near the highway, I realized my hands were shaking so badly I couldn't even press the room number. I checked in, walked into the room, closed the door, and collapsed onto the edge of the bed like a hollow shell. I had lost a child. And now, my husband. And the person I used to call family. The price of trust. Maybe is yourself. And in that cold darkness, I swore they wouldn't be allowed to keep a single piece of me. I woke up in the cheap motel room to the blurry gray light of snow reflecting through thick curtains. My whole body ached, like I'd been hit by a train. But what made me tremble wasn't the cold. It was the truth. Raw, irreversible. Nathan and Tessa, the two people I trusted most. 2 years of betrayal, of performing right under my nose. Not only did they steal my marriage, they stole my grief. Turned it into an opportunity to be intimate over a wound that hadn't healed. That afternoon, I sent Nathan a short message. "I need time, stay at the house." He replied almost instantly. "I'm sorry. I'm truly sorry. I don't know what I was thinking. You're everything to me, Rachel. Please, don't leave me. Let's talk. I'm begging you." I turned off notifications, didn't reply. A few hours later, Tessa started texting too. "I'm awful. You have every right to think that. But I never meant to hurt you. I was lost. Everything started spiraling when I saw how broken you were after the miscarriage. I just wanted him to listen." How ironic. While I quietly endured hormone shots, pregnancy tests, and needles, they were listening to each other, with their bodies. 3 days later, I met with Miranda, a former friend who used to practice family law and now ran her own firm in Salem. We met at a small cafe few people knew about a 40-minute drive from campus. "I need to protect my assets, not just from Nathan but from anything he and Tessa might cook up," I said, setting my cappuccino on the table. Miranda stared at me without blinking. "Oregon is an equitable distribution state, not a 50-50 one. If there's evidence of infidelity or financial deceit, you'll have the advantage. I have it. Photos, texts, a voice recording. But I'm not planning to use them yet." "Good. Then we'll start by separating accounts, valuing property, verifying investments, and reviewing all jointly owned assets." I opened my notebook. For the past 3 days, I'd been compiling every asset. A 2-story house in West Lynn? Bought 6 years ago, currently appreciating in value. Nathan's retirement investment fund over $270,000. Joint savings account nearly $90,000. A small condo in Bend, purchased before the marriage but renovated using funds from our joint account. And several art pieces we collected during our travels, including 2 paintings, appraised at over $20,000 each. I never imagined I'd have to examine every penny this closely. But when trust is crushed, you learn how to prepare your exit. After our meeting, Miranda referred me to a financial expert named Gwen, someone who specialized in complex divorce cases. You need to open personal accounts at different banks. Not online, no connection to any current accounts. 1 week later, I had opened 3 accounts. 1 at a local bank, 2 at digital banks headquartered out of state. While Nathan still believed I was taking time to heal, I was moving pieces of our financial life quietly out of his reach. In the evenings, I went home to pack what I needed. Documents, copies of property records, my personal laptop, hard drives with work data. I didn't sleep there. I left a note on the kitchen counter. I'll be staying at the hotel a few more days. I need space to breathe. One Monday afternoon, while sitting in a cafe near the university library, I opened my email out of habit. Official offer, visiting professor position at the University of Cambridge. I clicked. It was real. A 3-year appointment from the Department of Linguistics at Cambridge. I had applied over 6 months ago on a whim. Back then, I'd hesitated because of the fertility treatments and because moving to the UK didn't seem feasible. But now, everything had changed. I read every line carefully. The offer included a housing stipend, accommodations in faculty residences, relocation and settlement support, independent research opportunities, and most importantly, a legitimate, respectable reason to leave everything behind. I didn't respond immediately. I closed my laptop and stepped outside. The cold wind snuck under my collar, but I didn't zip up my coat. I needed to feel that cold, to remind myself I was still alive, and that a door had just opened. That night, I returned to the old house for the first time in over 10 days. Nathan had tidied up the living room and placed a few wedding photos back on the shelf, trying to create a welcoming atmosphere. He came out of the kitchen when he heard the door open. "Rachel, you're back." "Just stopping by to grab some books," I replied, not looking him in the eye. Nathan trailed behind me up to the study. As I opened a drawer to find a printed lecture, he paused behind me. "I've called a therapist. I'm starting sessions next week." I nodded. "Good for you." "Rachel, I know I have no right to ask for anything, but I still love you. I want to fix this. If there's any chance..." I turned around and looked directly at the man I once planned to have children with. "Cambridge made an offer. 3 years. I wasn't expecting it, but it's real." "Cambridge? In England?" It's my art. "So, what does that mean? You're leaving?" I exhaled slowly. "I'm thinking about it, but I also think, if we're ever going to start over, maybe a new environment is what we need. Far from everything. Far from Tessa. Far from the past." Nathan looked at me, clearly trying to calculate my pace. "You mean both of us?" "Cambridge provides housing for faculty. You could apply for remote work or find something new. I haven't made any final decisions. But if you're truly serious about rebuilding, then maybe this is the chance." I saw his expression shift. First anxiety, then hope, then calculation. He realized that going with me might salvage something from this marriage, at least financially, reputationally, publicly. I need a few days to think, but it sounds right. A fresh start. Somewhere new. Nothing's certain yet. But think about it. 3 days later, Nathan texted me. "I talked to my boss. I can cash out my shares in the firm if needed. I'm ready to go with you." In my mind, the pieces began to move. I followed up with Miranda, the attorney, Gwen, the financial planner, and even Ethan, an international tax consultant. I wanted to ensure every next step would be clean, legal, and airtight. A few days later, I formally accepted the Cambridge offer, requesting a fall semester start. giving me nearly 4 months to prepare. They responded enthusiastically, immediately sending relocation assistance and faculty housing brochures. I invited Nathan to review housing options and campus models with me. He seemed upbeat, so eager I had to suppress a smile. He really believed this was a new chapter for both of us. Less than 2 weeks after Nathan agreed to go to the UK with me, the wheels were in motion. I told him Cambridge required us to streamline bulky assets for smoother relocation. Really, so I could take control. I think we should sell the house now. Property prices in West Lynne are at their peak. If we wait until fall, they might drop. Nathan nodded. I'll call the realtor today. A few days later, the house was listed. The agent suggested a higher price than expected since the area was trending. We agreed. 2 weeks later, someone put down a deposit, $42,000 over the asking price. The money came in quickly, but it only landed in the joint account, the first thing I needed to gain control over. Quietly, I began transferring funds into my private accounts, no more than $9,500 at a time, to avoid triggering bank alerts. I used weekends and late-night hours when Nathan never checked the statements. I also advised Nathan, you should think about cashing out your shares at the firm. If we're moving to England, I doubt they'll keep you on remotely. I've been thinking about it. They just added a new partner, so I'll probably get a decent buyout. And he did, negotiated within 2 weeks. His shares were bought out with a sizable lump sum. Almost all of it landed in our joint savings, for now. At the time, I simply said, we'll use it to set up our new life. Buy furniture, pay for accelerated courses, cover advanced taxes. I had Miranda draft a revised financial agreement citing international relocation risk management as the reason. It included a series of carefully worded powers of attorney. I had full authority to act on both our behalf in any overseas financial transactions, including conversion, withdrawal, or reinvestment. I told Nathan, the university offers free legal drafting for faculty planning to relocate abroad. Their attorneys can notarize everything. It's faster and easier this way. He glanced through, flipped a few pages, and signed. I kept the original. I sent the scans to Gwen, the financial advisor, and Ethan, the tax consultant. Both replied, if necessary, you can act without his consent. Legally, this agreement is airtight. At the same time, a new file from the private investigator arrived. Tessa was seen with a man named Richard Lanford. They had dinner at an upscale restaurant in the Pearl District, then walked into the boutique hotel behind it. In one photo, Richard's hand rested on Tessa's waist, his mouth close to her ear, whispering. His other hand was still wearing a wedding ring. No further questions needed. I found Richard's wife's profile on LinkedIn. Her name was Victoria Lanford, an event planning consultant. I planned a chance meeting. I knew she usually had morning coffee at a small cafe near the newspaper office where she worked. I went there too. Pretended to sit nearby by accident. Complimented her handbag, mentioned I had hosted an event at the same venue she brought up, and then, I think I've seen your husband, Richard, right? Tall, salt and pepper hair, always wears dark shirts. I remember him because he's usually with a younger woman. Once, I think I saw them near the Blackstone Hotel, but I might be mistaken. I said it like it was nothing. Then shifted the topic, stood up and apologized for the interruption. A seed of doubt had been planted. As I walked away, I glanced back through the window. Victoria was still sitting there, but she wasn't smiling anymore. I returned to the hotel with a warm latte in hand, feeling lighter. Not because I'd retaliated against Tessa, but because I had preemptively blocked any move she might make. She didn't love Nathan, she loved the feeling of winning, but this time what she traded away was someone else's marriage. And I believed Victoria wasn't the type to stay silent. I told Nathan that Cambridge wanted me to arrive 2 weeks early to set up my office and work with HR. He didn't suspect a thing. In fact, he kissed my forehead and said, I'll wrap things up here. We'll meet again in London, right? I gave him a gentle hug. He didn't know it was goodbye in disguise. In London, we drove to Portland Airport on a drizzly morning. Nathan pulled my suitcase, snapped a few photos like he was sending off a lover with a prestigious fellowship. At the security checkpoint, he squeezed my hand tightly. Thank you for giving me a chance. I know I don't deserve it, but I'll make it right with everything I have left. I know. Then I turned and walked through security without looking back. As soon as I cleared screening, I entered the lounge, opened my laptop, connected to the airport Wi-Fi, and got to work. I had drafted the email weeks in advance. The subject line read, "I'm done staying silent." There were 12 recipients: Nathan's parents, his 2 older brothers and their wives, 4 close family friends, and 3 key partners at his former firm. The email wasn't vengeful, just calmly written, with clarity. I've remained silent because I needed time to be certain. But now it's time to speak the truth. My husband, Nathan Harper, has been having an affair with my younger sister for 2 years. I'm not sharing this to smear anyone's name, but to put an end to the lies quietly circulating behind my back. Attached were 3 images. One of Nathan and Tessa in bed, taken by me. One from the private investigator, showing Tessa leaving the hotel with a married man. And one of the signed power of attorney, bearing Nathan's unmistakable signature. I hit send. Next, I opened my banking app. The joint account held $424,000. Money from the house sale, Nathan's buyout, and nearly a decade of marriage savings. I moved it in parts into the 3 private accounts I'd set up. My personal account at Oregon Trust, an international account with a Cambridge-affiliated bank, and a backup account with a digital bank based in Canada. I left exactly $10,000 behind, split across 3 sub-accounts. Not because Nathan deserved it, but because I wanted him to understand the message. $1,000 for every year he pretended to be decent, no more. With that, I turned off all email notifications, logged out of our shared iCloud, and switched every device I owned into private mode. I permanently deleted all contacts related to Nathan and Tessa. Phone numbers, emails, social media. Then, I blocked them all. The boarding call for the Boeing 777 began. I stood, wheeled my suitcase forward, and felt something lift from my chest that had been pressing down for nearly a year. Hours later, I landed at Heathrow on a gray, rainy afternoon. A staff member from Cambridge picked me up and drove me to the faculty housing complex. A 2-bedroom flat, hardwood floors, bathed in natural light. I stepped inside, set down my luggage, and looked around the quiet, unfamiliar space. I made a simple dinner, opened the window, and let the breeze from the college lawn blow in. A group of students walked by, laughing in French-accented English. I smiled silently. I held a warm cup of tea, gazing out at the mist-covered courtyard. The last thing Nathan said to me was, "I'll start over, if you give me the chance." He didn't know. That chance was for him to destroy himself, by believing I still loved him. I let the world stay quiet for 3 days. My phone remained off, inbox untouched, home far and silent. I gave myself 3 days of complete silence. The morning church bells, the scent of old paper in the library, and the rustling leaves outside my window. On the 4th day, I powered it on. Over 60 missed calls. Most were from Nathan, then his mother, 2 of our close friends, and several unknown numbers, I assumed former colleagues. My inbox was flooded. The first message I read had only 3 words, sent from an address I didn't recognize. "I can't breathe. Sender, Tessa." Next came a long message from Nathan's mother. "Rachel, I don't know if you'll read this, but I want to say I'm sorry. I didn't see it. I thought you were exaggerating, until I saw the photos. I'm heartbroken. And I blame myself for ever telling you to forgive. Now I understand why you left. I hope you live well, though I know you don't need my wishes to do so." Finally, I opened Nathan's email. Subject line, "Please read this." I hadn't planned to read it, but curiosity won. "Rachel, I don't know where to begin. I know you don't believe a word I say, and you have every reason not to. Never imagined you would do that. Not because you didn't have the right, but because you did it so flawlessly. You took everything, assets, reputation, even the false peace I had been clinging to. You sent that email on the same day I was meeting with the board. 3 recipients saw it and forwarded it to HR. They didn't go public, but they quietly began reviewing all financial records tied to me. They flagged my equity withdrawal for potential ethical conflict. I was forced to repay part of it and step down from the executive committee. I moved into a tiny studio apartment in the suburbs, the same place you never liked, too noisy. Now it's the only place I can afford. I stayed with Tessa for a short while, but it fell apart quickly. You know what? She never loved me. She just hated that you had everything. I had known that all along. 2 weeks after I left the US, Tessa's scandal officially broke. A friend sent me an internal memo from the design firm where she worked. Richard Lanford had been suspended after his wife submitted evidence of his affair to the board. Tessa was also forced to take a leave pending ethical review. She moved in with Nathan because she had nowhere else to go. But a relationship born from betrayal can't withstand the weight of truth. They broke up after exactly 47 days of living together, according to a message from an old mutual friend, with the added note, "She smashed a vase and walked out in the middle of the night. He didn't stop her." When I thought it was finally over, one late evening I found a handwritten note in my mailbox. No envelope. Slipped under my apartment door. The handwriting tilted slightly. I recognized it instantly. Tessa, you won. You were always the better one, weren't you? But do you even know what you've become? Cold. Calculating. No different from who I used to be. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I just want you to know. I never envied you for having Nathan. I envied you for everything I could never reach. The admiration, the calm, and now, even justice. I hope you're happy. As for me, I'll have to find a way to survive. I folded the letter and placed it in a drawer. Not to keep it, just not ready to throw it away. Either way, it was the final punctuation. I moved into a small flat within the visiting faculty residence. White walls, wood floors, windows facing a rose garden still dormant under a thin mist. No one here knew I was the woman who left America after a family scandal, and I had no intention of telling them. I taught 2 undergraduate classes, joined a research group on multicultural linguistics, and spent Thursday evenings writing in the 3rd-floor reading room of Sydney Sussex Library. The book I was finishing was titled When Words Aren't Enough: The Breakdown of Intimate Communication. I didn't name anyone in the book, but every page held fragments of memories I had lived and survived. 3 months after settling in, I received an invitation to speak at a conference in Vienna. My talk caught unexpected attention in academic circles, leading to a string of offers from universities across Europe. I was no longer Nathan's wife, or Tessa's sister, or the infertile woman trying to hold together a fractured marriage. I was just a scholar from Oregon, now writing a book worth waiting for. And then someone walked into my life. Not with fanfare, not by force. Just by being there. His name was Elliot Wells, a lecturer in modern American literature teaching 1 building over. We met during a departmental seminar, argued fiercely about Hemingway, then burst out laughing when we discovered we both hated The Old Man and the Sea. Elliot didn't ask about my past. I care about the person sitting in front of me, not the ghosts behind her. I told him everything on our 3rd date, the betrayal, the photos, even the final dollar I left Nathan. Elliot wasn't shocked. He didn't judge. You didn't get revenge, you survived. Those are 2 very different things. We didn't rush, evening walks along the River Cam, Winefield readings of Sylvia Plath in the kitchen, Sunday mornings lost in conversation about Mark Twain and the fractured American dream. Everything came slowly but deeply. The woman who once traded sleep for hormone injections no longer lived in me. The one who stayed silent out of fear of losing a man who didn't deserve her. That woman died in a Portland hotel room, on the first snowy night of the season. Now I knew what I wanted, and I wasn't afraid of being left behind. One late spring afternoon, after a faculty council meeting, I walked home along a cobblestone path flanked by tall elms. Light rain began to fall, beads sliding softly down my coat sleeve. I didn't use an umbrella. The air smelled of old books and blooming white flowers. Students passed by, laughing in English laced with accents from around the world. I paused in front of the college gate, quietly watching the warm yellow light spilling from inside. In real life, not everyone has the clarity or strength to respond to betrayal with intelligence and dignity like Rachel. But her story shows us this. Sometimes, the sharpest revenge doesn't come from spite or public exposure. It comes from reclaiming your life quietly, firmly. Rachel didn't seek revenge, She chose renewal. A life shaped not by anger, but by self-respect. It wasn't an ending, it was the beginning of a woman who had taken herself back. What do you think about how Rachel faced betrayal and reclaimed her life? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to follow the channel for more powerful emotional stories about family, marriage, and the choices we make.